Battle Through the Heavens God, The Flame Emperor Chapter 45, The Bloodthirsty Dragon Lizard's Last Resort. Ha ha ha. You don't need to know this, we will naturally be well prepared to deal with you. Bingtian controlled the sky-piercing beam of light and whizzed away at the dragon lizard. Bingtian flashed past with two beams of light reaching the sky. In an instant, he came to the front of the bloodthirsty dragon lizard. Bang bang bang. A series of two sky-penetrating beams of light like chains surrounded the bloodthirsty dragon lizard. When the bloodthirsty dragon lizard saw this, the secret path was not good. It was surrounded by these two pillars of light, and its own power seemed to be rapidly declining. It's really worthy of being a dragon pillar. It has such a powerful and overwhelming suppression on the bloodthirsty dragon lizards that have some trace of dragon blood. Xiao Yan looked at the bloodthirsty dragon lizard who were being forced to retreat. Boom boom boom. The passionate dragon roar rioted wildly with the tail of the bloodthirsty dragon lizard. At this moment, the entire cave was also swept away by the bloodthirsty dragon lizard. It was no longer what it used to be. The dragon's tail brought a streak of terrifying energy that could rival the peak of the 4-star Dode and attacked the ice sky. Suffer to death. Bingtian shouted loudly, then shot at the dragon lizard. Obviously, Bingtian also noticed that the strength of the dragon lizard was being madly suppressed by the dragon pillar. How long would it be if he didn't attack at this time? Dong dong dong. The beam of light through the sky seemed to possess intelligence, deftly deflected the attack of the dragon lizard, and then strung it towards the dragon lizard under the blessing of Bingtian's body covered in white mist. The bloodthirsty dragon lizard also saw this clever sky-penetrating beam of light, and just wanted to avoid it, but unexpectedly, the space he was in was already sealed by the double-chained dragon column's sealing array, and the space of his own cave was sealed extremely seriously. The pupils of the bloodthirsty dragon lizard were suddenly covered with a layer of scarlet color at this time, making people look very strange. It is also clear that this double-chained dragon pillar is worthy of its name as the nemesis of Dragon Beast, and once one is locked by this chain, it is very likely that it will be seriously injured. How can he thought that he who possessed the blood of the dragon race could be forced to be embarrassed by humans? He thought that if he will be seriously injured today, then the consequences is what he couldn't imagined. Dragon has always been arrogant. Even a bloodthirsty dragon with only a trace of silk dragon blood is no exception. Did the bloodthirsty dragon lizard give up resistance at this time? Yuoro also stared blankly at the dragon lizard who did not move at all in the face of the double-chained dragon pillar. It shouldn't be. Have you noticed the change in the pupils of the dragon? The more powerful the beast, the harder it is to kill, and the powerful beast has three forms: a lurking form, a fighting form, and a violent form. The lurking form is the weakest of the beast. This form of monsters will hide and disguise, and will not reveal too much power, while the fighting form uses most of the power of the beast, which is several times stronger than the hidden shape. If a beast is forced into a desperate situation, it will be its last desperate means. The violent form, this form of beast is the most terrifying, and it is more than several times stronger than the previous two forms. Look at the dragon lizard carefully. The bloodthirsty dragon lizard may be related to this violent form beast. Xiao Yan also spoke slowly. Yuoro also looked at Xiao Yan with a bit of surprise. The latter not only has outstanding strength, but also has superb refining skills. The most important thing is that he is bold and careful person. Yuoro staring blankly at Xiao Yan, not knowing what he is thinking. What Xiao Yan knew was naturally what the Golden Dragon King told him. Otherwise, how could Xiao Yan know so many secrets? He immediately raised his head and looked at the dragon lizard in battle. He didn't pay attention to Yuoro at all. The battle is in full swing. Bing Wu looked at the dragon lizard as if it had given up resistance, and two sky-penetrating beams of light gradually wrapped around its tail and dragon claws. Ha ha ha. Bing Wu couldn't help laughing, thinking that he could complete the mission by sealing the dragon. Bing Wu couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. Not good. Although Bingtian didn't know the different forms of beast, when he saw the pupils of the dragon lizard trapped by the dragon lock pillar, his eyes changed greatly. How can it be? Humans? I said that you will pay the price. The dragon lizard said fiercely as it stared at the people in the cave. The natural ability of the bloodthirsty dragon lizard? Violent blood? A circle of red protective film is formed around the dragon lizard. Violent blood not only gives the dragon lizard an amazing protective film, but also greatly increases the attack power of the dragon lizard in a short period of time. It can be said rudely, even if the current dragon lizard is trapped by the dragon pillar, and its strength is suppressed to the level of a human 3-star dote, but the protective film of the dragon lizard is not comparable to Bingwu and Bingtian. Even these people can work together. It was clear that the attack of the bloodthirsty dragon lizard was stronger than the previous one. 5 minutes? Violent blood can last 5 minutes. Don't say 5 minutes, even 1 second can decide whether the battle will be won or lost. As we all know, every beast will be born with natural talents, but very few of them can successfully cultivate. Bingtian and the others obviously know it, but they did not expect that this dragon lizard actually succeeded in cultivation. Even if the dragon lizard was trapped by the dragon-chained pillar, it held up its arrogant head under the violent blood form, and a stream of hot energy was brewing in the dragon lizard's mouth. It is the most powerful attack method of dragons? Dragon breath. At this time, the dragon lizard's dragon breath in its violent blood form, even Bingtian and Bingwu are not sure if they can take this attack. Damn, it's still a wrong move, Bingtian said viciously. What do I do now? Bingwu also frowned. Although the dragon lizard in front of him was trapped by the dragon chain, its protective film with astonishing defense power required all efforts to crack it, even if it was a 5-star dote powerhouse cannot run. Bingtian also calmly analyzed at this time. Immediately, looking at the clouds and mist in the sky and the remaining Solomon disciples, a trace of chill flashed in his eyes. This is the only way now. Solomon disciple obey. Blood sacrifice. Bingtian shouted loudly. As Bingtian blood sacrifice had just been shout out, the dozens of Solomon's remaining disciples were running around as if they had met a ghost, because they also knew that the so-called blood sacrifice was to use their blood as a sacrifice, condensed on one person's body, to have a powerful burst of power in a short period of time. In other words, it doesn't make any difference for the disciples of Solomon, because they will also die. Death to me. Bingtian turned into a huge and hideous face, with a distorted smile, and when he opened his mouth to the Solomon disciples who were about to run away, he devoured them. If you take something that doesn't belong to you, it's time to return it, Bingtian apparently said to the seriously injured Bingwu. Whoosh. Bingwu also hurried back, and he also knew that Bingtian at this time was no longer in his original mind. Puff. Bingwu didn't escape in an instant, and was directly swallowed by Bingtian. Without exception, Solomon's disciples were all swallowed up by Bingtian. That Bingtian's strength is also skyrocketing at this moment. The initial stage of the 4-star dote, the middle stage of the 4-star dote, 4-star dote peak stage. This emperor is really powerful. The strength of the peak 4-star dote is so suppressed. I'm afraid I can persist in it for a minute. However, 1 minute is enough to solve you, little beast. Bingtian looked at the violent blood dragon lizard, smiling a bit, and looking very— Chapter 46, The Mantis Catches the Cicada. This Bingtian is really worse than a beast. Even his own brothers and sect disciples were all devoured by him. It is as abominable as the Soul clan on the Dochi continent. As expected, moths can be found everywhere. Xiaoyan looked at the black Dochi surrounding him. Ice sky, the atmosphere said. If a person has no emotions, it is no different from wild monsters with low intelligence. The difference between humans and low-intelligence monsters is that they have emotions. Xiaoyan couldn't help clenching his fists. This kind of person really deserves to be executed by everyone. The Golden Dragon King silently watched Xiaoyan's every move, and nodded with satisfaction. She really did not see the wrong person. Then he muttered to himself. A blood sacrifice? This sin really penetrated deep enough. It seems that there should be some problems with this so-called Solomon. The battle has reached the white-hot stage. Being able to force me to do this is not worth the name of your violent blood dragon lizard. Bingtian was covered in black aura, which made him look very strange, and then he roared. Bingtian roared with awe-inspiring, murderous intent. The sound of thunder rolled endlessly over the cave, causing the entire cave to be silent for a moment, and one after another, with some horrified beast eyes, shot in the direction from which the sound came. This roar naturally also spread to the violent blood dragon lizard above the cave. At the moment, all the beasts made a sound of shock and stopped. They all knew that this was between the two powerhouses. During the battle, his eyes looked in the direction of the voice, and finally stopped in the direction of Bingtian. It seems that you Solomon have coveted my blood for a long time. The dragon lizard also thought coldly. The dragon breath of the dragon lizard and the attack of the ice sky are brewing sooner rather than later. They all know that there is no need to hide and tuck the battle until now. The last blow can decide the winner or loser. I saw that the scarlet protective film covered by the bloodthirsty dragon lizard was particularly eye-catching. It perfectly covered the entire body of the dragon like heaven, and the temperature of the dragon's mouth was also swallowed by the ice sky. When it was completed, it became more and more hot, and the space was slightly broken. In this violent blood form, the dragon's breath is so terrifying. Puff puff. The terrifying dragon breath spit out from the bloodthirsty dragon's mouth, attacking towards the ice sky. The terrifying dragon's breath contains the power of destruction. Ordinary 4-star DoD powerhouses will be severely injured by the scorching heat even if they touch a little bit. btth's black vindictive energy instantly formed a jet-black beam of strange light in front of him. The sound of mourning could not be heard in the beam of light. Many arms stretched out around the beam of light, breathing out at the dragon's mouth. Resist? After this, btth devoured everyone in the group. His power skyrocketed so terrifyingly, and now the extremely confident btth also intends to resist the dragon's breath. This btth is really arrogant, but he has arrogant capital. Xiaoyan also secretly exclaimed. However, according to the current battle, the bloodthirsty dragon lizard is also in a violent form, and the last violent blood talent is also used. On the other hand, where btth is, all the people of Solomon on this trip were devoured by him alone, although the strength has soared, breaking through the limitations of this different space. However, the limitation of this space only restricts the powerhouses above the 4-star DoD from being able to enter and exit easily, but if they break through to the 4-star DoD in this space, it will be different. But the most important thing is that they are all working hard, and then they die from exhaustion. Yuoro, listen to my instructions and wait for an opportunity later. Xiaoyan also tilted his head and said quietly. Xiaoyan, don't worry, I feel a few breaths coming here, like someone who has fought with you before. The Golden Dragon King not only watched the fight in the cave, but also kept his attention scattered all the time. Space, and then said to Xiaoyan who was staring at the cave. Huh. Xiaoyan was also depressed. Now there is no time to take care of other things. First get the magic core, then he is more and more careful to hide. The violent blood dragon's breath is indeed powerful, enough to rival a 5-star Dowdy powerhouse. Even if btth devoured the skyrocketing power of many colleagues, it was quite difficult to deal with. Boom boom boom. The dragon's breath and the icy black beam of light were viciously mixed together. Two dazzling beams of light confront each other. It's not that, it's difficult to use your own power after all, right? The violent blood dragon lizard also shouted loudly, and the crooked way was still inferior. Suddenly, before the dragon lizard's words were finished, the terrifying dragon breath instantly drowned the black beam of light emanating from btth. Puff. The place where btth was originally was attacked by the breath of the dragon, and with btth as the center, a circle of hot and terrifying ripples rippled out. This ice sky actually went wrong on the way, directly killed by the dragon breath. The strongest attack of the dragon lizard? The twist and turns of the plot obviously made the bloodthirsty dragon relax. Humph. Isn't our dragon race comparable to you humans with low bloodline? It's really not a pity to die. Although the dragon said so, he spit out a few mouthfuls of dragon breath in a row to prevent any changes. Boom boom boom. The dragon lizard also fell away at that instant, smashing to the ground ruthlessly. Obviously, the dragon's breath and violent blood talents consume a lot of the power and even the vitality of the dragon, but it is not worth the loss if the life is saved. The dragon's eyes closed slightly at this time. It was weak, and now it can be easily killed by even a human being of a 2-star DoD. Puff. A dragon-headed crotch was silently inserted into the dying bloodthirsty dragon's head. It's over now. This btth who had disappeared suddenly appeared, with a tattered figure and some black blood. This person looked even more ferocious. When the bloodthirsty dragon fell, the protective film covering the body surface was automatically released. It was not the time. The main reason was that the bloodthirsty dragon was too weak, and maintaining this violent blood form was extremely consuming his vitality. But the dragon lizard obviously underestimated the cunning of human beings. Until the dragon head crutches struck fatally, The dragon lizard's pupil were still wide open, as if he didn't believe that Bingtian could survive under his own dragon's breath. I can't bear the child and can't catch the wolf. Bingtian also responded to the last question of the dragon, and then began to collect the blood and core of the dragon. Just when Bingtian was just about to deal with the dragon, a wave of blue and silver alternated, as if the fierce doe spirit formed by the fusion of strong wind and thunder, also shot out along a section of silk and satin, and finally collided with Bingtian fiercely. Bingtian, I didn't expect to find you here, go to hell. The girl in the colorful dress said to the hideous Bingtian in front of her. The city lord of their Fenglei city, Feng Yi's father, lost an arm and a leg because of the unprovoked pursuit of Solomon's elders. This has always been a shame to their Fenglei city. Moreover, her father loves Feng Yi the most, and Feng Yi swears that she will never share the sky with Solomon in this life. Bingtian just ended a war, and now is the time of weakness. Seeing the girl in the colorful dress in front of her and the people around her, she couldn't help but say in despair. 5-3 Chapter 47, The weak 4-star Dode blew himself up. Ha ha ha, it's actually the remnant of the Fenglei family. If it wasn't for your father who desperately protected you, you might look different now. Bingtian also looked greedily at the girl in the colorful dress named Feng Yi. Today is your day of death. Feng Yi said plainly, but anyone could see the frenzy in his eyes. Finally, I'm going to kill this enemy. Father, I will take revenge your shame. Feng Yi roared in his heart. The entourage who was in charge of protecting the young lady saw that the young lady was emotionally disturbed, and hurriedly tried to stop the young lady, but found a dark figure attacking Feng Yi. I can't live, but none of you will live. Ha ha ha. Bingtian quickly approached Feng Yi, looking at the icy sky that was rushing towards him. His body was rapidly expanding, and his body was exuding thick black air. Obviously he wanted to die with Feng Yi. Although the girl in the colorful dress was a little excited, she still did not lose her sense of reason. Seeing Bingtian whistling towards her, her body was covered in black energy and she couldn't help frowning slightly, biting her lips lightly. Even in Bingtian, who was seriously injured now, the girl in the colorful skirt felt a terrifying aura from the black energy. Feng Yi's feet suddenly moved, and her figure quickly swept into the sky. At the same time, her palms were spread out, and in her palms, a trace of silver space power flashed out. Space prison. The girl in the colorful dress just let out a soft shout, and the space around Bingtian suddenly fluctuated violently. Immediately, the invisible space seemed to have become substance, turning into a space prison, wrapping Bingtian in. Condensing such a real space prison is difficult for even the ordinary 4-star Dode, but Feng Yi, a girl in a colorful skirt, is able to use the tyrannical power of the wind and thunder attributes to display it out. Of course, the most important thing in this is that the wind and thunder attributes originally have a bit of space power, and using this as a medium, she was able to mobilize the space power that is free between heaven and earth. Moreover, the battle between Bingtian and the bloodthirsty dragon lizard seems to be an understatement, but it is also seriously injured. Although he devoured all the Solomon people in the same way to supplement himself, he still underestimated the bloodthirsty dragon. Although he defeated the dragon in the end, in fact the last blow of dragon lizard was abruptly and severely injured Bingtian. Bingtian, who was seriously injured, saw Feng Yi, a girl in a colorful skirt, and several of his followers, 4 3-star Dode. He knew that this time, he was going to die here, but he was not reconciled, and he had to drag them to bury them when he died, so there was this scene. The space prison has just taken shape. But Bingtian's body suddenly swelled to a terrifying level, and immediately, a shocking explosion appeared. Bang! The terrifying black energy airwaves, like waves in the sea, swept away in all directions crazily. On the other side, Xiaoyan just saw that Bingtian's self-destruction, and his soul force spewed out. He walked towards the body of the dragon lizard, covering his entire body in a blink of an eye, as if it disappeared and didn't exist in the first place. Fortunately, I caught up, otherwise this terrifying self-destruction will shed its skin even if it doesn't die. The girl in the colorful skirt also said to a few followers. After resisting for a while, the space prison burst open directly. As a result, the mountain range in the cave that was originally occupied by the bloodthirsty dragon lizard trembled violently as if it had been shaken. Huge cracks spread out like spider webs, and the beasts enslaved by the dragon lizard in the entire mountain range fell into a panic at this moment. This self-destruction, that power, is extremely terrifying. Facing such a terrifying energy storm, Feng Yi, the girl in colorful skirts, could only avoid the edge for a while, and their bodies flickered, appearing directly above the distant sky, staring solemnly at the raging energy below. Being so engaged by Bingtian, most of this mountain range will be turned into ruins. In the distance beyond the mountain range, the red Dochi roared out like a cloud of fire, and on the cloud of fire, a slender figure stood with his hands behind his back, looking contemptuous. He ignored the many people who went to the main hall, just turned his eyes, and cast towards the place where the bloodthirsty dragon lizard was. Apparently, this arrogant son of Wu Chang also sensed this terrifying energy storm. His face changed at the moment. The two old guys Bingtian and Bingwu actually blew themselves up. To be able to force him to this stage, that character is really terrible. Wu Huan suddenly felt a bit bitter in his mouth. He himself knew the strength of these two old men, Bingtian and Bingwu, and he can be regarded as a true pride of heaven, if he can force them all to be in this point. Wu Huan is also very clear, and he is not an indecisive person, and a fierce light flashed in his eyes at the moment. Remembering that the so-called Xiaoyan also went in that direction, he couldn't help saying to himself, this Xiaoyan is indeed very strange, even if you are an imperial alchemist, but if you kill Bingwu and Bingtian, it doesn't mean that you will feel better. Solomon will never sit by and watch an elder get killed. Then, hee. With a gloomy smile, Wu Huan turned his head decisively, waved his hand, and went to the main hall, speeding up again. Somewhere in the mountains, among the three attendants of the girl in the colorful skirt, an old man in white was also startled by Bingtian's crazy actions, and immediately hurriedly carried Feng Yi, shuttled through the forest like lightning, and finally his body flashed, landing on the top of a mountain peak. Looking down at the energy storm raging in the mountains, she could not help but take a breath. This old guy is really crazy. Feng Yi was also frightened by the destructive energy below, making her pretty face a little pale. Not everyone can see the self-destruction of a Dode powerhouse. To be able to force a Dode powerhouse to the point of self-destruction, this bloodthirsty dragon lizard is well-deserved, and it is really scary. The white-clothed old man slowly raised his head and looked at the road above the distant sky. The blurred figure that has fallen, said with some sigh, but it's strange. The body of the dragon lizard was clearly still here just now. Why didn't I find it? It should have disappeared because of his self-destruction. It's a pity, but forget about it. Let's focus on creation first. Let's go, miss. His self-destruction won't even have his soul left. We should go to the main hall, the old man in white said after feeling it. Go. The girl in the colorful skirt also left quickly. Is she all right? Xiaoyan also swept across the sky, but his eyesight was far less than that of his master, so naturally he could not see Feng Yi. What can she do? That hand space prison directly killed Bingtian's thought of pulling her to death. The Golden Dragon King smiled and shook his head, then said, but she killed Bingtian. I am afraid that it is a real bad relationship with Solomon, and with Solomon's behavior, he will definitely send strong people to surround and kill her. The raging energy storm in the mountains lasted for about 10 minutes before gradually weakening. During this time, Xiaoyan and Yuero also retreated. This level of self-destruction, the scope of the impact is too large, and the size of the body is too large. It still stayed on the sky, and its eyes were gradually closed. But fortunately, the soul power is strong enough, and the two of them have not been discovered by the girl in the colorful Chapter 48, Getting the Bloodthirsty Dragon Lizard Magic Core. The woof wind blew through the mountains, bringing up yellow dust. The lush green forest and the cave of the bloodthirsty dragon had turned into a piece of mud at this moment. When the last trace of the energy storm slowly dissipated, Xiaoyan and Yuero in the sky just opened their eyes, and their eyes slowly swept across the extremely messy mountain range below, and finally fell gently and walked slowly. Going to the place where Bingtian blew up, there was a huge crater several tens of meters in size, and at a glance, it was impossible to see the bottom. His eyes swept across the pothole. Xiaoyan's footsteps suddenly came to the giant pit, where there was a slight inconspicuous light. Cough, cough, cough. Fortunately, I brought a turtle breath pill with me when I came out. This kind of self-destruction can deceive the remnants of the Feng Lei family. This time I will go back and clean up this Feng Lei family. Even a small Feng Lei family wants to compete with our Solomon. It's just over for their own capabilities. There were bursts of voices in the weak rays of light. I'm sorry you may not have this chance. Xiao Yan also appeared at the location of the light like a ghost. The palm of his hand touched the light slowly. A sneer suddenly appeared on the corner of Xiao Yan's mouth. Terrifying flames blasted out fiercely. The ground burst open. The wood chips flew, and an illusory soul escaped in panic, and finally flew towards the sky. Go, and then start to move. The surrounding space is suddenly solidified. Elder Bingtian has a good plan. His body exploded. Relying on the special effect of the medicinal pill, a trace of soul escaped, but it's a pity. Xiao Yan looked at this illusory soul with a smile and said softly, Xiao Yan, don't kill me, we can have a good talk. You don't want to offend us Solomon just like that, right? The soul was trapped, and immediately turned into Bingtian's illusory face. At this moment, there was a real sense in his eyes. Fear. If this trace of soul is destroyed by Xiao Yan, he will really be finished. I don't want to go to this stage either, but someone who doesn't even let off his own brothers. It's really not as good as a beast. Xiao Yan sighed softly, stretched out his palm, and immediately held Bingtian's soul. Xiao Yan. Solomon won't let you go, just wait to die. Feeling Xiao Yan's killing intent, Bingtian cursed bitterly. Bang! Xiao Yan's face was expressionless, and when he squeezed his palm, Bingtian's soul burst open, and immediately turned into a spot of light, which disappeared. Looking at the dissipated soul spots, Xiao Yan knew that Bingtian, the elder of Solomon, had said goodbye to this world. Completely. Careful mind. Don't let the enemy escape. Very good. The Golden Dragon King couldn't help but say. In a faraway place, in a quiet wooden house, among the hundreds of plagues, a plaque exploded. The old man on the side closed his eyes and slowly opened his eyes. There was a thick black in his eyes, giving people a strange feeling. How dare you kill me, Elder Solomon? Go on and investigate this person thoroughly. Yes, Sect Master. There was a strong anger in the old man's words, and before the words fell outside the door, someone took action. Yuuru blinked suspiciously on the side. She did not see the scene where Xiao Yan destroyed Bingtian's soul, but she felt that her father, who had a high vision in the past, had an extremely high evaluation of Xiao Yan. A faint laughter suddenly sounded on the mountain peak, and Xiao Yan's figure slowly appeared in front of Yuuru. Xiao Yan. Seeing Xiao Yan appear, Yuuru immediately shouted with joy. The body of the bloodthirsty dragon lizard is still there. You know where the preciousness of this beast mummified corpse is, right? Her eyes were fiery and introverted. Yuuru suddenly stared at the body of the dragon lizard beside her, and said a little eagerly, apparently not realizing the little trick Xiao Yan had done just now to take advantage of the big explosion. Xiao Yan was obviously frightened by Yuuru's question. Looking at the huge, but extremely stiff body of the dragon lizard in front of him, Xiao Yan also held it and felt it gently. Immediately, he waved lightly with the ancient ruler of eternal fire behind him, and the somewhat rigid head of the dragon was like tofu, cracked out of thin air, and the fracture was as smooth as a mirror. A dazzling light flashed out. It's the magic core. That's great. Yuuru also smiled at Xiao Yan with great joy, and finally she didn't find out what she was worried about. However, Yuuru is also concerned and confused. If it exceeds the 8th rank, that is, the magical beasts that are enough to rival the strong Dode, will definitely produce magic core. Let's go, since the magic core is in hand, let's go to the main hall to have a look. Yuuru is also not greedy, since she has both the crescent moon green fruit and the magic core that Xiao Yan needs, then there is nothing to worried. Wait, this dragon lizard has treasures all over its body. Xiao Yan also saw it, and took a closer look at this huge body. What sharp claws! The sharpness of this thing made Xiao Yan take a breath. Why are you looking at all this garbage? You don't think you have enough time to grab the great fortune. Just the blood of the dragon is useful. You refine these blood. I can feel that these blood contains the talent of violent blood form. Bloodthirsty, I want to rely on the refined blood to be able to display it. The Golden Dragon King also felt the atmosphere. Xiao Yan's head is covered with black lines. This dragon lizard is still the overlord of one side anyway, so many valuable things in blood and body, how can they become garbage when they reach the mouth of their master? But it's no wonder, considering the status of one's master. This kind of thing is really. Xiao Yan also saw the extraordinary blood from the violent blood form of the bloodthirsty dragon lizard and immediately extracted the blood of the dragon. Breaking open the body of the dragon lizard, a huge aura rushed towards her face. Yuuru's face was a little ugly, the scarlet color inside the dragon lizard. As the calcination of the flame intensified, it became more and more intense, and at the end, it turned out to be completely condensed together. Immediately in Xiao Yan's surprised eyes, it turned into a drop of scarlet blood, penetrated along the surface of the flesh and blood, and finally passed through the flame and dripped down. Seeing the blood dripping down on the ground, Xiao Yan's eyes were quickly took out a jade bottle of quite good quality from the ring, and then put the drop of blue-red blood into it. After catching the scarlet blood, Xiao Yan breathed a sigh of relief. He raised his head and glanced at the burning milky white flame, and found that with the dripping of the blue-red blood, the piece of meat turned out to be directly calcined by the flame. In the middle, it turned into nothingness, and not even the ashes were left behind. Looking at the 7 drops of scarlet blood in the jade bottle that did not mix with each other, Xiao Yan had no choice but to shake his head. With a wave of his hand, he put away the flames in front of him, and then grinned and smiled at the jade bottle. In the collection ring, I didn't expect that the body of a dragon lizard, which few people in Fengyi had not noticed, could be created by him. In Xiao Yan's opinion, the value of these 7 drops of scarlet blood would never be worth it. Weaker than the dragon, and even, in a way, stronger. This blood contains the extremely violent power of the dragon lizard. This thing cannot be used indiscriminately, otherwise, it will definitely make him fall into the tragedy of body explosion. But this is nothing to Xiao Yan. The problem is that he is an alchemist himself, and he is quite reconciled with the violent factor in these energies. As long as he is given enough time, at that time, he will be able to absorb all the blood safely. Therefore, this time, Xiao Yan not only collected the demon core of the dragon lizard, but also these 7 drops of blood are enough to cast the violent blood form protective film of the bloodthirsty dragon lizard, which is comparable to the blood essence of a 5-star Dodi's all-out blow, and the harvest is quite satisfactory. Go, let's go to the main hall. Xiao Yan and Yuuru turned into a shooting star, heading towards the great hall deep